So, funny story about this chapter. I hit the, start chapter, button just to check, whatever the first song would be, balance my audio levels. Turns out the first thing that happens when you start this chapter is that there's an unskippable 3-minute cutscene where Mia and Tower watch Army of Darkness together with the actual in-film audio playing at full volume. So, thanks for almost costing me the VOD acid. I'm sure that scene will definitely turn out to have been worth it. Anyway, literally nothing that looked like it could possibly be plot relevant happened. So I'll spare you me complaining about losing my VOD to that by not doing that. Anyway, hi everybody, hi Tommy. We're all here playing the Torrential Turnabout. Once again. Appears we're going to finally get our chance to meet this mysterious tower the game is deliberately yanking our chains about not getting to meet, even though she's somebody. Well, it's probably he. Something come across like a he in that they like cheesy movies. Anyway. Who are you and what is your story? It doesn't mean the prerequisite 90 minutes was worth it. Caspignana. Technically speaking, we aren't actually going to lose the VOD because I did skip, but, it seemed very self-indulgent anyway. Can we please see some things now? Hey, so, now this is... You have not gone blind. The game is supposed to look like this. Or the absence of this, as the case may be. Are we all good for tomorrow? Yeah, me and the trial? No worries. It'll be a piece of cake. Aight. Tight. What? You think I'm gonna lose? You know that ain't what I'm worried about. Tower. It'll be fine. Wait, this is a night before the trial, isn't it? Oh boy, we've got a mysterious voice that we don't know is ourselves. That seems, You know, VA is, VNs, Mystery VNs. Mystery VNs in the style of Zero Escape. They do this sometimes, and it usually means things are about to start exploding. So everybody please make sure you apply your safety goggles, because there's probably about to be debris flying all over the place. Why am I remembering this now? What's going on? Aye, good talk. It's nice to see, Oh my god, I am not ready for this. Alright, that's the Ace Attorney standard opening I know and love. Calm down. You just need to calm down. Hey, you doing okay, Mia? I need to think. I need a game plan. You don't really look that hot. Medically, I mean. McLean said that the prosecution's theory isn't all that solid. I know that they suspect Graves for 2 reasons. Can I, get you something? Tea? Coffee? 1, he was at the hospice on the night of the crime. 'Cause I'm gonna get a cuppa for myself. And 2, he was involved in the NX0 incident, which gives Graves both the knowledge needed to pull off the murder and a motive. Somehow. So if you want one, now's the time to ask, because I'm not sharing. Sorry, what did you say? Coffee. Yes? No? Oh, no thanks. Yes, avoid the black bean of death. It is in fact an addictive chemical. That's the only reason anyone likes it. It tastes like pain and loss. Just power through with raw spite, like the rest of us. Hey. Mia? This lobby is a lonely place without the defendant, isn't it? No sorrowful goodbyes. No lives entrusted to others. No hopeful anxiety. You don't drink coffee, Mitsuda? Not in a very long time, no. And I have the near constant headaches to prove it. Now, to be fair, people who drink coffee also have constant headaches. It's almost like life itself is the source of all pain. There's no feeling of companionship here. No fear either. Just silence. Silence and the weight of uncertainty. It's a harrowing feeling, and an all too familiar one at that. I know you're anxious. I'm a little antsy myself. I mean, you and I have done some really dumb shit together, but, this is by far the stupidest. Maybe I'd be more okay with this if it promised some sort of closure or something. But as far as we know, this will end up being just one more bloody brick in the wall. Yeah, there's still plenty of time for this to backfire on us. That would be my line, thank you. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and he looks at me. Look, I try not to worry about it. You don't kill the heroes off until the climax, right? Yeah. I'm gonna grab some Joe, okay? Just sit here and try to chill out. I'll be back in a sec. Whoa, 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 whoa. Silence. And the weight of uncertainty. I wonder what movie he stole that line from. Oh. Might push that a bit too far. The shit I do for the sake of a gag. Anyway, I just googled silence and the weight of uncertainty, and it got literally no hits. So, if it was taken from someone, it's a pretty obscure source. Worry about your health daily? I mean, you probably should. It's not really accomplishing anything, but, you know, your fears are not misplaced. McLean said there was no decisive evidence or testimony against Donald Graves. So basically, if I can prove that anyone else had an opportunity to commit the crime, then there's no way they can pass a guilty verdict. But I can't let the trial end that easily, or else I won't have accomplished anything. Sorry, Mr. Graves, but finding the real culprit takes precedence over your freedom. I mean, That's not that different from how we attack any other case. And unless, of course, you are the culprit. Then, I'm sorry you had to get stuck with me. Mia, what is your involvement in this case? Hey. Oh, you're back. It's almost time. Yeah. There's no bailiff today, so... suppose we'd better head in. Ready? You know it. It is very weird that they fast-tracked this case so hard they didn't even get the bailiffs back. What are you, NX0 incident? Why are you so important? How high does this go? Alright, 2019. This case is set before Damon Gant became the chief of police. So this could potentially go all the way to the top. I doubt you mentioned not being particularly religious, though. I don't believe I've ever mentioned that, but it is a true statement. We are all alone in a godless universe. I mean, I'm not necessarily alone in the entire universe, seeing as how there is an alien in chat right now, but you know what I meant. Anyway, isn't there like a murder we gotta solve or something? We should probably focus on that. That is a wacky looking courtroom. I passed the point of no return a long time ago. There's no point in being scared. Running away has never been an option. We mustn't run away. We mustn't run away. So why do I feel like we're making a huge mistake? This is just another brick in the wall. Why are these doors so damn big and important looking? He only believes in cosmic energy. Have you... I'm curious... Oh, for the love of Christ. I'm curious, is your, have you... Oh, come on, come on. It's too early in the stream for this. Yeah. Alright, now you're just being rude. Alright. Alright, you back? You back now? Things are maybe looking alright. Oh, this thing is definitely not worth more to tell me, don't you, worry your pretty little face about it. Anyway, crime. These doors. I just can't help but feel that through these doors is the next chapter of my life. Suddenly, all of the dramatic orchestral strings are playing. I wonder if it was fate that brought me here. Or if it was the sum of my choices. No, probably one of those two options. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's not the sort of thing you can really solve with a deduction, so I am totally out of my depth here. I will walk this path to the bitter end. Man, they're really going all in on the sound design. Maybe we're too far for being honest with ourselves. They haven't replaced the judge. Honestly, who the hell even does that? Court is now in session for the trial of Donald Graves. Honorable Judge Lisa Liviana Harper presiding. L-O-H. That's the only real meaning I can derive from this name. It doesn't sound particularly punny. But again, that's what I could say about most of these names. L-O-H, I feel like that's kind of something. Something scratching directly at the corners of my mind. Keep those initials in mind, chat. I feel like they're gonna come up. Thought it was a different Donald. Well, like Donald Duck? Like Donald Pleasance? Now tell me, you can't just keep saying shit and then expecting people to understand what you're talking about. You don't make that much sense. Your head ain't screwed on that tightly. I would ask that you all rise, but considering the number of people here, I'll skip it. In all my years, I've never once seen a completely empty gallery. The Donna that lives in your heart. Tell me I don't have a heart, we've been over this already. A murder trial amidst a disaster. Mind-boggling. But my musings can wait. Let us begin proceedings. Is the prosecution prepared? Prosecution is ready to go, Your Honor. There are too many people with very smooth-looking appearances in this chat. I don't have that many low, smooth voices to go around. Can you all please stop? I can't recall ever seeing you in my court before, Prosecutor. Are you new to the office? No, I was called in from out of state. Apparently they couldn't find anyone to take this case. I take that as... that's not... Okay, that's me holding a heart. You can't prove it belongs to me, now can you? Well, with the hurricane and all that. From another state, could they not have contacted anyone closer? Well, I suppose you can call me a consultant of sorts. You could say I have a little more insight into this murder than most. Alright, we can clearly see you. You aren't anyone who was present inside that case. Unless you are Roland. Roland claimed he was an accountant, but he could very easily be a liar. Certainly interesting. The heart isn't yours, then are you admitting to being guilty of the theft of a heart? Yes. Yes, I am. At least 2 hearts, actually, given that I have achieved 2 whole chat regulars. Which honestly is more than I expected when I started this damn channel. Oh, this sucks. Now we get, like, responsibilities and shit, and people are holding me to standards. It's terrible. But where are my manners? I'm a Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth. It's a pleasure. Are you now? Somehow I find that doubtful. Joe, he was looking right at us. Did he say Edgeworth? I didn't just mishear that, did I? No, it's, that's definitely what it says in the court record. No, he definitely said Miles Edgeworth. That's, Shiga whatever, right? Yep. Did you just yee at me? We're in big trouble, aren't we? Well, that is what we came looking for, ain't it? Welcome to our city, prosecutor. I'm afraid it's not much of a tourist attraction at the moment. And the defense? Are you prepared as well? Okay, so we're both... Wait, no, hold on. That's obviously not Mia Fey, but Diego is in fact Diego. So are we wearing a disguise for some reason, or are we a stranger who Diego knows? The former option would make slightly more sense if we were investigating a crime that goes all the way up to the top, as it were, which would certainly explain why a police detective is dead. But I don't know, this case seems too well put together to rely on a hokey plot device like saying, oh, I used my real name so that I could claim that I was being impersonated when I actually was doing the one impersonating myself. And on the other hand, the promotional material for this case clearly said, your name is Roland, your name is Mia Fey. So it could be that Roland isn't an alias either. It could be that we're both going by our real names. That would make sense. I mean, as much as anything in this case makes sense. Yeah, that's probably it. They're trying to bait us into overthinking this. Ah, so good to finally meet you, Ms. Mia Fey. Ms. Fey, is it? I apologize, but I am not as familiar with your work as the prosecution is. Really? I'm surprised, Your Honor. You've never heard of the talented Mia Fey? No. Should I have? Of course. She's regarded very highly as an attorney. She owns her own law firm here in LA, and she even mentored the famous Phoenix Wright. Rumor has it that she was once next in line to become the head of the Kurain clan. And I can't say that I've ever heard of any lawyer named Phoenix Wright, or the Kurain family. But is it true you own your own firm, Ms. Fey? Oh, are you fucking with me? Okay, it's not going down this time. It's true you own your own firm, Ms. Fey. The prosecution is exaggerating, Your Honor. I don't own my own business, and I've certainly never mentored anyone. Perhaps he's mistaking me for someone else. Now that you mention it, you don't quite look like how I imagined you would, for some reason. Don't break eye contact. Don't break eye contact. Is this your way of saying you're on to me? Fine then. If you're looking for a fight, you found one. Do you think you can beat me at my own game, Miles Edgeworth? Do your worst. Yeah, it's really convenient that we got a judge who's incredibly ignorant of literally everything happening in her own field. Ah, Jesus Christ, are you serious right now? Now then, I think it's high time we moved on to the opening statements. Freaking hate this. Now then, I think it's high time we moved on to the opening statements. Would the prosecution please start us off? Certainly. Ask if the theatrics, since no one's here to appreciate them. What's an ace attorney case without theatrics, though? How would that even work? How are we supposed to hold a trial if the prosecution isn't going to act unbearably extra? Honestly, you're undermining the entire foundations of the franchise. The prosecution seeks to indict Donald Graves for the murder of Detective Kurt Bishop. Good old Kurt. Let me start by stating that there are only a handful of people in the world who possess the knowledge needed to have committed this crime. And one of them is you, so that's unfortunate. The defendant is part of that happy little bunch, of course. The murder took place on the roof of Jameson Memorial Hospice at midnight between July 7th and 17th and 18th. At that time, the defendant was the only person in the building who had both the knowledge and opportunity to kill. I'd be very curious how you plan on proving that. Through evidence and testimony, we are able to paint a picture of what transpired that night, and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Donald Graves is the culprit. Very well. What is the defense's response, Ms. Fay? The defense pleads not guilty, Your Honor. We aim to prove that the defendant is not only innocent, but was deliberately framed to take the fall for this murder. Edgeworth looks really different in this game, huh? They were quite aggressively pushing the idea that that is very obviously not Edgeworth. I'm surprised you needed me to spell this out for you. That's kinda obvious. That is a very bold statement, Miss Fay. For the sake of your client, I hope you can back up your claims. But his name is Edgeworth. But he said... On the subject of the defendant, have there been any updates in regards to his condition? I checked in with the hospital he's being treated at earlier this morning. By the sounds of it, he's not doing very well. I imagine his verdict will have long since passed by the time he wakes up. If he wakes up. I see. This is truly an unfortunate situation. However, I do not make the rules. This trial will continue with or without the defendant present. Prosecutor Edgeworth, how would you like to proceed? Let's establish the facts, shall we? How does a subject matter expert testimony sound? Thought has been deemed to stretch and hydrate. Thank you very much. Give me 1 second, please. Here we go. Alright. Yeah, that'll promote some blood flow, hopefully. I would appreciate a subject matter testimony. I'd appreciate any amount of testimony, really. I barely know anything about this case. We have a healthy legal system. Prosecution calls Detective Bryce McLean to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Detective Bryce McLean of the LAPD. I'm the lead investigator on the Bishop murder. I am also the only investigator on the Bishop murder. At least till Charlie comes back. Detective, would you please share the results of your investigation? You bet. And come on over there, Miss Faye, just like we talked about yesterday. Alright? Don't pull any punches. Good to know somebody's on my side. And don't you worry, Detective. I'd be more than happy to rip your testimony apart. I mean, detective testimonies don't generally contain lies unless the detective is himself the culprit, which I don't think is happening here. Victim's name is Kurt Bishop. He was the detective with the LAPD, like myself. Between 12 and 1 a.m. on July 18th, his heart was pierced by a crossbow bolt. That's an unusual murder weapon, but by no means is this the first time I've worked a case, actually. Fascinatingly enough. I mean, in some ways it makes sense. You don't get gunpowder on your hands or clothes, you don't have to worry about people hearing a gunshot from another floor. They're much less stringently controlled if you live anywhere other than America. His body was found on the hospice's executive wing, but the bow was found on the patient wing roof. Okay, that doesn't look half bad. Hopefully it actually stays that way for longer than a few minutes. His body was found on the hospice's executive wing roof, but the bow was found on the patient wing roof. That's certainly interesting. One of the hospice's residents, Nathaniel Montclair, was also found on the patient wing rooftop. The defendant, however, was found floating just outside the hospice, barely alive. They believe this murder to be premeditated. Graves called his victims out intending to kill them. After attacking both victims, Graves threw himself off the roof in an attempt to end his own life. Awfully convenient how we're framing a person who can't speak in their own defense. There's a lot of points there we could pound on, and I plan to hit all of them. Murder-suicide, is it? What a horrible waste of life. Miss Faye, I assume you wish to cross-examine the witness? I do, Your Honor. Very well. You may proceed. Actually, Your Honor, before that, I'd like to submit this map package as evidence. Oh, did they finally release the new map pack DLC? Man, I've been looking forward to getting a chance to perform in the hospital level since they announced it. Might have been a rushed job, but it's still a useful reference. I was told to stress that it's, not quite up to our usual standards. Here's Deperian, hello! Welcome to the stream. We're starting the first trial day. This case is very unusual. For, quite a few reasons. So, maybe don't rate it as though it's to scale. Thank you, Detective. God accepts these diagrams and evidence. Alright. Will you please stop skipping that? I'd like to actually look at this map at some point. Alright. The entire first floor was underwater from the flooding, including the entrances. I imagine that's probably how they're going to get to the point of... I have no reference having never played an Ace Attorney before. Is this a fan game? It is! It is a fan game. This is a pretty recent fan game. It's been getting very good reviews in the, fandom space thus far. So naturally I was very excited to jump on board. Alright. Menus in red require use of an employee keypad. So that's the border between the two buildings. Alright, first floor was totally underwater from the flooding. That probably indicates, like, how they're going to say whether the like, how they know the suspect pool was appropriately small. Really, it only depends on when the culprit showed up. Alright. The entrance in the executive wing is employee only. I'm assuming this is the elevator, not the entrance, since there's no doorknob. Alright. The patient wing rooftop is where they found the murder weapon and Nathaniel Montclair's unconscious body. The executive wing rooftop is where they found the dead body. So what I'm assuming is that they are claiming that the culprit shot up there. Because that's where they found the murder weapon. Over here. That firing upwards like that seems like a very difficult shot to make, and it would be rather obvious from the angle. If you would just please give us our damnable autopsy report already. That feels illegal. You know, withholding evidence from a legitimate member of the defense like that. Alright. Well, there's some preliminary thoughts, but we do need a bit more to work with before we really jump into theorizing. Just to be clear, Jameson Memorial consists of two separate buildings, correct? Right. There's the patient wing, which is where you can find all the tenants' rooms and reception. And there's the executive wing, which is mostly offices and stuff. The executive wing is slightly taller than the patient wing, but the latter is the bigger building overall. Yeah, that's that diagram is in fact not to scale. Now we know. And of course the two buildings are connected by a pedway, please stop saying that, on the second floor. I don't have all the facts yet. I should start by making sure I've got all the weapons I need. I start poking holes in their logic. You are very tall, Mr. Prosecutor. You too, actually. Everyone in this case is so damnably tall. It's strange. Alright. Victim's name is Kurt Bishop. I don't believe you. No, I'm kidding. Alright. Please tell me a bit more about this. Alright, no need to yell at each other. What part of that statement wasn't crystal clear to you? What part of that statement wasn't crystal clear to you? I mean, we already know, like, the detective was involved in some suspicious stuff. Come on, man. Now you're just making yourself look worse. Prosecution requests that the defense attempt to make actual progress with their questioning. Please. Your Honor, are you going to allow the prosecution to impede my cross-examination like this? I admit that I'm not sure how I feel about your bullying, Prosecutor. To be fair, what were you going to ask the detective, Miss Faye? Oh, I was going to ask, You aren't a real defense attorney, are you? Right then, moving on. This is going to be a long trial. Yeah, especially if you freaking bungle really basic elements like that. Alright, between midnight and 1, he was shot with a crossbow. Miss Faye, did you have a question? I don't know. Am I allowed, Prosecutor Edgeworth? Ah! Look out! It's a snark attack. You two children, honestly. Alright. I'm losing a lot of goodwill in this case, Acid. Just ask your question, Ms. Faye. A crossbow. That's right. A bolt struck the victim from the front and lodged in his chest. Well, there's the dramatics we needed. Those aren't dramatics, Nana. This is just playground bickering. And God knows I hate children enough under ideal circumstances. Death wasn't instantaneous. The victim was conscious for maybe a minute after he was shot. That sounds rather specific. Did you receive the autopsy report you were waiting on? I did, in fact. Got it here. The court will accept this into evidence. Thank you. Alright. Well, will you stop that? Los Angeles Police... Yeah, picture of the victim. I'm sure it's going to be very dramatic. Los Angeles Police Department Coroner's Report. Curtis Allen Bishop. Sex male, age 39, born December 27th, 1979. And between 12 and 1 on July 18th. Heart failure caused by direct ballistic trauma from a crossbow bolt. Death was not instantaneous. The victim bled out over the course of a few minutes. Despite this, it is unlikely that the victim retained motor control after the bolt entered his heart. The following is a list of the subject's belongings recovered from his corpse. A wallet containing his police ID and $23 US. Man, they are really getting those budget cuts in the department. Friggin' took him long enough. Police issue Glock 19 with a concealed holster, no traces of use. So the victim did not shoot back. Implies either an ambush or, God knows, he might have let it happen. This case is certainly weird enough. His house key. His cell phone in his chest pocket, destroyed by the bolts. An old lock-picking kit, a spool of fishing line and a hook. That sounds like the equipment of someone who's planning a crime in my book. A Beak lighter, 6 Marlboro cigarettes. And, unsurprisingly, everything was drenched by both water and blood. And what did our man look like? Oh, come on! I mean, that's a face I trust, I don't know about you all. Right, his body was found on the executive wing roof, the bow was found on the patient wing roof. Just so we're clear, the killer shot at the victim from the adjacent rooftop? That's correct. We know that Donald Graves, Nathaniel Montclair, and the weapon were on one roof. He's a bit away from the corner, away from the edge of the roof. Could easily imagine that shot being completely impossible. It certainly would have been easy. Especially with this. Hold on. I want to hammer on this point, but I don't know if our evidence is solid enough. Right. And the rain started at 10:45. Alright, that's nothing. And that the victim was on the other. The shot must have come from the patient wing. Additionally, the only people who could freely move between the two wings were the nurses on duty. Meaning that there's supposedly no room for chicanery. I mean, I can think of several ways we could perform chicanery, I don't know about you all. I always know a thing or two about chicanery. Alright. A spool of fishing line and a hook sounds like something you could use to make a grappling hook. Don't know why it would have wound up in the pocket of the guy on the higher roof. But it could be arranged. Do we know when the body was found yet? Detective, why don't you tell us about the murder weapon? Right. We found the crossbow at the location on the map marked by the big red C. It was just lying next to one of the fan enclosures, those, X-looking things on the diagram. That's a fan enclosure, okay. Could have shoved something tiny down there. It's possible. The weapon is a rabbit hunting crossbow, probably obtained on the black market. The bow didn't have any traces on it that we could find. But we did confirm that the bolt that hit Bishop fits into the bow. But not that it's the same bow. Oh, there are more possibilities here than you are giving us credit for. I need something concrete to latch onto. Or I'm just gonna sit here rambling about possibilities all the livelong day. And that the distance the bolt traveled is approximately consistent with the wound. And by approximately, I mean taking the hurricane speed winds into account. So not very approximate. Now, Prince, even if the killer was barehanded, the torrential rain would have washed the bow clean. Blood would be a different story, but there was a sizable distance between the victim and the shooter. Meaning there's no proof my client actually pulled the trigger. The prosecution does not dispute this fact, but it does dispute its importance. It's impossible for the killer to be anyone other than Graves. None of the hospice's tenants have the freedom needed to prepare for this crime. And all the staff have alibis. That's awfully convenient. So the news left. Help me out here, Mia. Don't you patronize me. You say all the staff have alibis. Can you elaborate? Lamy. We cross-reference the testimonies of all the patients with the staffs. It's a bit of a patchwork, but both members of staff can be accounted for. Are you seriously telling me that numerous terminally ill or debilitated patients were awake at midnight. Yeah, actually. Well, okay then. I guess that, no, that settles it. Most were too agitated by the imminent hurricane to sleep. He's joking, right? It definitely sounds unlikely. I don't think I have the evidence to argue otherwise, though. It may be indecisive, but the murder weapon is still a vital piece of the puzzle. The court accepts this crossbow and evidence. Hunting crossbow, found on the roof of the patient wing, equipped with a black market thermal scope. That wasn't brought up during your testimony. I'm not sure what it means. I don't know how a thermal scope would work in a hurricane, but then again, hurricanes ain't exactly known for being warm. Case did take place in the middle of August, but then again, they call it body heat for a reason. I don't know what this means yet. Hold up. What's this about a thermal scope? There are no lights on any of the rooftops, so the place was essentially pitch black. So the culprit might have shot the wrong person. As I theorized earlier. We know our detective was paranoid, prone to unusual behavior, and given what he was found holding, likely up to mischief of his own. It's entirely possible the culprit shot the wrong person. Of course, the question then becomes, who was the intended victim? Graves or Montclair? The rich hospital owner? Or the completely unknown person? We're just getting deeper and deeper into this endless morass. I don't know what to do with it. Hence, the thermal scope. It allowed the shooter to target the victim in the dark. Thank you, detective. I think we all grasp the concept of thermal vision. You can get back to your testimony now. One of the hospice's residents, Nathaniel Montclair, was also found on the patient wing rooftop. This report describes his injuries as blunt trauma. Was he struck with something? Boy, was he ever. Man, they beat the shit out of that guy. It was kind of amazing. Probably got like some sort of quadruple damage critical hit bonus or something. It was crazy. Take a look. The killer used this heavy steel pipe to brain Montclair. A pipe. That's right. Take a look at the second diagram I handed out. Yep, there's the pipes up there. I did notice those. Notice all the junk lying around? It's construction equipment. Construction? Yeah, they're fixing the ventilation system if I recall correctly. They've been working on the roof 10 to 6 every day for the past week or so. But see the thing on the right? It's a pile of steel piping. We found our pipe here mixed in with the lot. It tested positive for blood. Man. If I had a nickel for every case I've worked where some just loose construction equipment was used in a crime, I'd be able to retire, like right now. They should really work on tight enough security on these places. And before you ask, yes, it was Montclair's blood. Understood. The court accepts this pipe as evidence. Alright, long, very heavy, used to attack Montclair. Trace of his blood on one end, pipes from ongoing construction. If it's long and very heavy, that probably limits the number of people who could pick it up and swing it around. There's a little something to keep in mind. By the way, the door that exits onto the patient wing rooftop is usually kept locked at all times. Usually. And how do we claim our man got up there? However, for ease of access for the construction crew, it's been kept unlocked for the past week. Well, that explains it. Getting real lax about security in this place. Before we move on from this topic completely, there's something that's been bothering me. What is up with this diagram of the patient wing roof? Why does it just fade out like that? Oh, right. Again, understand that it's not our usual quality of work. Basically, the construction crew has torn up sections of the roof to work on stuff. Everywhere that's faded out is covered with tarps. You can walk in that area, but take it from me, you're likely to break a damn ankle if you don't know exactly where you're going. Okay. That complicates things considerably. The coppers firing from a greater distance than we were giving them credit for earlier, which makes the shot more difficult, considering they were firing at an upward angle. It's entirely possible the edge of the adjacent building would have blocked them. Unless this was all a setup. But everything of interest is in the area shown on that diagram, so I wouldn't worry about the rest. Thank you, Detective. You may continue on your testimony. The defendant was found floating just outside the hospice, barely alive, because he fell off the roof. You know, like murderers are so wont to do. Jameson Memorial is a 6-story building. How in the world did Graves survive that fall? Oh, that's easy. Hit the water. From the flood, you mean? That's right. Based on witness testimony, we know the first floor flooded around 12:15. The water rushed in extremely quickly. It took maybe 5 minutes for the entire first floor to submerge. When the defendant jumped, the floodwater cushioned the impact. Obviously, hitting water from that height still did a number on him, but it was probably what saved his life. Yep, that surface tension will shoot your eye out, kid. I see. Please continue, Detective. Missing an eye and an arm and on trial for murder on top of it all. Poor bastard. I really hope you turn out to be like Sheol or something so I don't have to feel bad about, like, seeing your life get ruined. We believe this murder to be premeditated. Graves called his victims out intending to kill them. Now this is the important bit. I mean, everything we've discussed thus far is the important bit, but this is the bit we knew was important before we showed up. Tell me everything. If there was ever a time to get some answers, it would be now. Detective McLean. I know. Want to hear about the messages and such, right? Who are you, not Edgeworth? What is your thought process? Let's start with Bishop, then. He's the odd one out. Early on in the investigation, we searched his desk at the LAPD precinct. Inside, we found a letter. A letter? Who's it from? We're not really sure. The sender's diction implies the two have some sort of history, though. As for the contents of the letter, well, I'll let you read it yourself. Alright, let's take a look at this thing. A typed letter. Detective, if you're reading this, then something has gone awry. I'll be on the roof of Jameson Memorial's executive wing around 12:30 at night on the morning of the 18th. After that, well, who knows where I'll have gone to. If you want to find me, then I would advise you to act quickly. You know how it is. I can't tell you much in this letter, unfortunately. The truth you are looking for is not a simple one. In lieu of a proper explanation, please allow me to give you a small something to help you on your way. For good or for ill, it seems that I am a very poor murderer. Cosmonaut. A cosmonaut wasn't anybody who was in the death game on the other side. So if our culprit is a poor murderer, then they either got caught or failed to do the actual murder part of the equation. Cosmonaut is a Russian word, and we do have a Russian person in our court record right now. So many questions. Awry? Something to help you. A very poor murderer. Cosmonaut? Stop repeating everything you say back to the audience like you're on a rotary phone in a movie from the 40s. The hell does any of this mean? This is the reason the victim went to the hospice that night. He went to meet with the sender of this letter, this cosmonaut, whoever they are. Do you have any idea what this something to help you on your way is referring to? No, unfortunately. It's possible the sender meant they would give Bishop that something if and when they met. Of course, it's also possible that there was more to the letter, a package or something. But again, we just don't know. The letter wasn't delivered by the Postal Service. We don't even know when he received it. I see. So then the sender's identity? Not a clue. Well, I'm glad we got that sorted. Anyway, the truth being alluded to in this letter. There's no doubt in my mind that it's in X0. The question is, who's the sender? All things considered, Cosmonaut is probably our killer. This person who's a very poor murderer. Probably a poor conductor, too, so... Unless someone else has a way of knowing Bishop would be on the roof at that time. I don't even know how to begin making sense of this. By the sound of it, Bishop knew and was looking for the sender. Not only that, but the sender openly admits to being a murderer. Or at least... I think so? I'll take another look at it, but honestly that seems pretty cut and dry. I am a poor murderer is either a murderer or an attempted murderer. The most pleasant sounding interpretation I can come up with is that they're a poor murderer because they decided not to go through with the murder after starting planning. Maybe they wanted to go after Sheol. Decided they were just too nice, or too good, or just couldn't go through with the murderer. Someone else who knew this meeting was being planned showed up and committed the murder themselves? That seems appropriately twisty. Though, I'm sure Edgeworth would argue Cosmonaut is actually just Donald Graves. Moving on. Nathaniel Montclair, living in Care, doesn't exactly have a private mailing address. But he is allowed a cell phone. Or rather, he allows himself a cell phone, since he's a proprietor of the building. And a few days before the murder, Montclair received a phone call. From... Well, who do you think? Oh, is this my line? Sorry. Who called Montclair? Well, obviously it was the defendant. Man, I can't believe this evidence turned out to be bad for our clients.
Objection!
Traces of the same call were found on my client's phone as well. Or so I'm told. Meaning that Graves was summoned to the hospice just like Montclair was. Simple. He faked the call to himself to make it look like he had a reason to be at the hospice.
Objection!
Evidence, please. Your Honor, the prosecution is spouting conjecture. If he had any real proof that my client harbored ill intentions, he would have presented it by now. Alright, jeez. There's no proof Graves called himself to throw us off the trail. But obversely, we can't verify that the call was legitimate either. What do you mean? What I mean, dear Mia, is that the only evidence suggesting this phone call to Graves happened at all is just a single number on the defendant's recent calls list. It matches the one on Montclair's phone, and it was made using a disposable cell.
Hold it!
Yep, gotta keep a collection of burner phones at all times, just in case you gotta change your number on the fly. If that's the case, then how can you be sure that the phone call to Montclair was real? Fair point. Basically, we don't know that either. However, Mr. Montclair was very forthcoming about the details of the call. And we've got no reason to believe he would be lying. After all, it'd be very difficult for someone confined to medical care to prepare for this murder. So then who was it? Who was what? You've lost me, Miss Faye. The question I asked earlier, the one the prosecutor thought he could dodge. If Montclair was so helpful, he certainly would have told you who it was that called him. Since you haven't come out and said it yet, I'll ask for you. Was my client, Donald Graves, the person Nathaniel Montclair Oxygen. The person Nathaniel Montclair talked to on that phone call? I think it's time you gave us a straight answer. That answer don't look all that straight. In fact, it looks rather dashed. Okay, fine. I'll tell you. Everything. Everything? Everything! Yes, everything. You can find on the internet, you lazy bum. Why don't you try Googling it yourself for once? Hey, you should be grateful. I'm about to save you one whole Google search. Thanks. I can't help but feel I'm missing something here. And this is for you, Your Honor. You may have been asking yourself, just who are Donald Graves and Nathaniel Montclair, and how are they related to Kurt Bishop? At a glance, they certainly seem to be unrelated. However, there's a common thread that links them. So, to kick things off, do you know what a red room is, Your Honor? It's It's the place that Black Widow was trained at, right? I assume you are not referring to the obvious connotation. You assume correctly. I don't know how much you know about the so-called deep web, but it's more or less the part of the internet that has all sorts of weird and/or illicit material. And for every one truth about the place, there are two overly embellished rumors. Years ago, people started claiming there were private invitation-only live streams of murder, torture, or whatever heinous crime made your story more interesting, basically. These urban legends were called Red Rooms because... well, actually, I have no idea. It's all a myth, though. There are countless logistical problems with running one of these things. You gotta rent out a room on top of buying a murder weapon. Gotta get some chloroform so you can bring a living person into the room to commit them. Honestly, it's a whole production. So much effort, so little payoff. Until 5 years ago, someone actually made one. Now you may or may not have... Alright, I don't know why that keeps happening. If I did, I would like to fix it at some point, mayhaps. But that's what it is. A red room. The Red Room. Shields, room and board. Nine people were forced to kill each other for the enjoyment of a live audience. And that's how those three are connected. Kurt Bishop was the LAPD's lead investigator into NX0 for a short while, and Graves and Montclair are survivors. Survivors. Well, I suspected as much. I do appreciate that Mia is generally speaking on the same page as the rest of us. Well, me at the very least. Nothing more obnoxious than a mystery where the detective is treated as an idiot for the benefit of the reader looking smart. That doesn't generally work. Well, I appreciate the information, prosecutor, but you still haven't answered my question. Who phoned Montclair? During their imprisonment, those 9 captives were occasionally spoken to by their captor, and they used a voice modulator when they addressed their victims. So to answer your question, we don't really know who called Montclair. Not definitively. But whoever they were, they spoke as the serial kidnapper Sheol. And for those of you who can't put 2 and 2 together, what I mean is, whoever called Montclair did so using Sheol's unique voice modulation. Now, of course, the number of people who know what that modulation sounds like and can imitate it is limited to Sheol himself as well as the 4 survivors of the room and board. Didn't you just say the game was live streamed? Didn't you just say the game was live streamed? Did nobody who was watching the live stream actually see any of the live stream? Did they live stream to an empty Twitch channel because they just couldn't get that much attention? Is that what I meant to take away from all this? Because that would be pretty relatable. So, to bring this whole thing back around to our current topic, our list of possible killers includes 2 nurses, 30 supervised patients, 2 victims, and 1 guy who survived a murder game. Guess who's suspicious? I guess I shouldn't have expected to come out of that on top. Oh well. At least we finally got some of that out in the open. The message used to summon Montclair to the roof at 12 midnight. There's the... Yeah, imagine committing, like, multiple federal offenses and then leaving a VOD. That'd be a hell of a way to get arrested. Make my job a whole lot easier if more criminals did that, let me tell you. The message used to summon Montclair. Allegedly, a message was delivered using Shield's unique voice modulation. A call from the same unregistered number was found on the defendant's phone. Interesting. Letter and 2 phone calls. It seems strange that the killer would use 2 different methods to call his targets to the scene. I don't see why Bishop wouldn't have reacted to being called by Shield as well. Unless Cosmonaut and Shield are 2 different people. That would certainly explain why they didn't sign the letter Shield and the note that you're a poor murderer. When given that we're being told that 5 people did in fact die, it's probably believable that Shield is a competent murderer. Seeing as he was in charge of the initial Annex Zero investigation. But at the same time, what would the big twist here be? 2 different senders? Yes, that's what I just said. Thank you for playing. I doubt 2 unrelated events collided on the rooftop at the same time during a hurricane. Who's to say it was a coincidence? Who's to say them occurring at the same time was a coincidence? Okay, are we back? Or are we back now? No, we're not? Okay. Sure, fine, I see how it is. I swear, I spent like 5 hours before stream all day just leaving myself on output test. Just to make sure we were actually fucking connecting properly. Okay. Anyway, I'd like to know why you're so thoroughly convinced that this was a coincidence. It's doubtful Shield is the only person on Earth who knew what Shield was doing before they did it. There are many other people involved in this world. And organizing a death game on the scale of Shield's room and board would have required multiple people. Even if they didn't, someone must have been tracking him. Still though, it's curious. And after attacking both victims, Graves threw himself off the roof in an attempt to end his own life.
Hold it!
Well, he wasn't doing a good job of it, was he? I believe you yourself told me, Detective, that my client had displayed no signs of being suicidal prior to the murder. Then he would have also told you that everyone who knew him said he was a very reserved individual. Besides, it's not even a real argument. Mental health isn't a black and white issue, Mia. Come on, it's 2019.
Objection!
Even so, considering the effort the culprit made to cover their tracks, why would someone who's planning to commit suicide try to mask their intentions? What the heck are you even talking about? The reason we don't have any evidence isn't because the killer covered their tracks, but because of the circumstances of the crime and the way the murder was carried out. I don't think those are different sentences, my good man. I know where you're going with this, but you should probably learn to communicate better if you're going to be a prosecutor. What about the phone call my client allegedly faked to himself? Meh. It's a little odd, sure, but we also don't know when this became a suicide mission for Graves. It's quite possible that he intended to escape with his life at first. It was worth a shot. Still seems a bit shady, but it's not evidence. Okay, I think I've gotten all the details I can from the detective. I've just got one thing left to ask. Detective, would you be willing to do us a favor? You've given us all the details pertaining to the murder, but it's a bit messy. Do you think you could give the court a timeline of what happened at the hospice that night? Yeah, I could run through it for you. Alright. Well, the crime starts 5 days before the murder occurs. That's when Montclair received the phone call that was presumably made by the defendant. Also, Detective Bishop received that letter. We're not positive when he got it exactly. Those two things out of the way, the killer's preparations were complete. So jumping ahead. On the night of the crime, Donald Graves arrives at the hospital at 11:30, a half hour early. We know this because one of the nurses on duty that night was at the reception desk. The nurse lets Graves inside to take shelter from the rain. They stay in reception for 30 minutes. Making sure everybody sees his face, no doubt. Totally the sort of thing I would expect from a murderer. Then the nurse had to step away, leaving the defendant alone. He made his way to the rooftop, followed shortly by Nathaniel Montclair. Using the steel pipe, Graves brains Montclair, nearly killing him. Around the same time, at 12:11, Bishop was detected entering the hospice from the adjacent wing. We know this because he triggered the security camera above the door. The footage is junk, but the camera itself has a record of going off for 3 minutes until 12:11 a.m. Doors employee only. We think Bishop picked the lock to get in. Can't explain the 3-minute wait. So, having already taken care of his first target, Graves waited for Bishop to get to the roof. So he had 3 minutes alone with one victim, and at no point during that period did he notice that he hadn't actually succeeded in the killing. That strikes me as unlikely. Again, it's not gonna hold up as proof, though. We had a clear shot, he took it. And at some point during the victim's ascent to the roof, the first floor of the hospice flooded. After killing Bishop, Graves jumped off the building, narrowly avoiding death. Round 1, Catherine Winters stumbled across an unconscious Montclair on the rooftop. What was she doing up there? And Nurse Dmitry Volkov recovered the defendant who was floating half-dead near the front entrance. Aside from the defendant, no one could have entered or left the building during the flood, which lasted until 7 the next morning. Which was also about the time Kurt Bishop's body was found and the police were contacted. I didn't contact the police after finding a person who'd been brained? Were the phones out? That would make sense that we're rolling blackouts. That's about it. Time would die and now. Right. So 5 days before is when they get in contact with Montclair. If I'm right about the letter being sent separately, but intentionally, then it was probably sent afterwards. Graves arrives at 11:30, sits around with the nurses, letting everyone see him for half an hour. Alright. Nurse steps away, Graves sneaks upstairs. Defendant goes to the rooftop, Montclair goes a bit afterwards. Our victim gets brained. If there is an external culprit, they probably pushed him off the same time. Bishop spends 3 minutes picking the lock. The footage was wrecked. And who did that, I wonder? Sounds like a point in our defense. Having already taken care of his first target, Graves takes the shot. It still bothers me that he was working at that angle, and nobody said anything. After killing Bishop, Graves jumps off the building. An hour later, plenty of time for a real culprit to clean up and sneak somewhere else. Nurse Winters discovers Montclair. Alright. I am curious where the crossbow factors into all this. That's not the sort of thing you can just hide under any sort of outfit. Considering how vague the thing is, I doubt I can use it effectively as evidence. Either way, I noticed the blackout hasn't come up yet. Well, like any medical facility, Jameson Memorial's outfitted with backup generators. Backup generators? Yes. Backup Backup generators? A security camera? Yeah, see, I see, that's why the security camera went out. It was because Sneak threw a chafe grenade at it. Now the pieces are coming together. If the building suffered a loss of power, every patient on life support would be dead in minutes. The generators are set up so the lights won't so much as flicker. Can't explain why nobody's mentioned it. I should keep that in the back of my mind. It could come up again later. So, are we done here? No. Not yet. If I stop here, I'd basically be saying that I accept the prosecution's logic. And I'd like to avoid doing that if at all possible. If I give him an inch, he'll take a mile. That's the impression I get. I think I'll start this trial off properly by sending a message. Sure. Do you really think there's a contradiction here? I doubt they'd have arrested Graves if there were any glaring problems. Maybe not, but I think I still have a shot at this. So far, our understanding of the crime is unbelievably shaky. There's so much we don't know. Did the victim do anything while he was in the executive wing? What actually happened between Graves and Montclair on the patient wing roof? Who was Phone? What was the motive for any of it? I may never find a blatant contradiction, but if I keep forcing the points that don't quite make sense, I might get somewhere. And I should start thinking about what's being implied by a testimony, not just what's being said. Read between the lines, in other words. And to start off, I'm going to point out that part of the prosecution's logic that implies some very strange behavior from the defendant. Alright, can we keep pressing?
Objection!
That's the same statement. Alright. Populated crossbow bolt, body found in the executive wing, and Nathaniel Montclair was also there. Yes. Alright, this isn't actually changing any. Hey, this did seem like the weirdest... the point that implies the most suspicious behavior, at least. I think the most suspicious thing he did was, like, let his face be seen
Objection!
for an uninterrupted half hour. Followed by letting one of his victims just be alive. Maybe how the crossbow was smuggled in under his clothes, though we don't know if he was wearing a coat or anything. Preparing a weapon, but only using it once on 2 victims. The letter, but not the phone call. Using one for some and one for the other. There's a lot we could bang on here, and I'm not sure what any of it means. Who was Phone? And of course the angle of the shot, I'm not gonna stop banging on that at any point. Ba-da-dong. Ba-da-dong. Seek a way out. Alright, are we there yet? And this really is a super long press convo. Are you supposed to try to avoid these? Why is this whole thing coded as a press convo? Just make the first testimony a... press every statement to continue testimony and make this a separate testimony. Come on. Program this in as a cutscene in between. Crimine. You are clearly very good at using this editor. You got voice acting, you got all these stylish... See, you didn't even remove that statement, honestly. Honestly. Alright, something that implies strange behavior on the part of... Just how do you intend to send a message? Well, got a pretty good idea. It's not a major flaw, but there's one part of the prosecution's case that sticks out. You should examine the piece of evidence that doesn't fit with the rest. That's very clear and sensible, thank you. The bow was found on the patient wing. You believe this murder was premeditated? Alright. This seems a bit weird, but I'm not sure how we communicate it. That's deep, man. Yeah, about as deep as your asshole. Alright, this game's not playing softball, is it? Which is unfortunate, because I would like to actually begin the damn case at some point. What's being implied by each statement? The defendant, however, was found floating outside the hospice, just barely alive. After attacking both victims, it's weird that he used a different weapon on each of them. This prompt is too open-ended. Doesn't make sense. Like that is objectively weird. Like you can't argue that's less of Is it something physical? Is that what we're looking for? No. Threw himself from the roof in an attempt to end his own life. Here's by a crossbow bolt. No. Alright. Look, I don't like doing this on a first testimony, but I'm gonna look at the walkthrough. This isn't difficult, you just didn't give us a prompt. Believe the murder to be premeditated using a steel pipe. I mean, that's... alright. We believe the murder to be premeditated. Okay, that's not... See, that's what I was trying to communicate earlier, but I swear they didn't accept it. Detective, on behalf of this court, I'd like to thank you and your team for all your hard work. I'm sorry you're so fucking stupid. However, I can't help but notice a problem with the events as you tell them. Is that a fact? Well, let's have it then. My attention keeps getting drawn to the pipe used to strike Montclair. Frankly, the nature of this pipe doesn't fit with the crime as we understand it. I don't mean to steal your thunder, Miss Faye, but I have a feeling I know where you're going with this. Why did the culprit use an improvised weapon if the murder was premeditated? Right? Well, sorry. That's just not good enough. But you just explained why it doesn't make any sense? Yes, I did. However, that's from our perspective. And our perspective, sadly, is rather lacking. We don't know what happened on that roof that night. All we can say for sure is that blood was spilled. There are a plethora of reasons that the defendant could have had to use the pipe instead of the bow. For example, maybe he didn't have time to load the crossbow. Or maybe he only had one bolt. That may not make sense to us, but the defendant's actions might have been perfectly logical. We just can't know for sure. That's a weak argument and you know it. Honestly, how dare we try and use this as a contradiction? Who even put this in the game? Are you honestly telling me you arrested my client without even knowing what he did at the scene? How could you arrest anyone with such a brazen lack of information? Look, you're right. As far as we can tell, there's no way to figure any of this out. Not definitively. But the thing is, even if the outcome of that meeting doesn't quite make sense, as long as nothing is outright contradictory, it doesn't matter. Since none of the hospice's residents could have prepared for this crime, we have 3 suspects. Donald Graves, Nurse Catherine Winters, and Nurse Dmitry Volkov. However, we can prove that neither nurse went to the patient wing rooftop that night. On top of this, we found no connection between them and NX0, which the culprit must have had. Graves, though, went to the roof and has a connection to NX0. So even if the pipe thing doesn't quite make sense, it's not enough to change anything. I mean, I hate to say it, but he does have a point. At the end of the day, this contradiction isn't worth a hill of beans. I assume from your silent glare that you have no objections. Guess I have no choice. That was all I had to work with. The defense has no further objections. Show off. So then you have no problems with the case I've presented. Oh, I have tons, but not within the shoddy framework you've established. Well, that's too bad then, isn't it? This whole contradiction was ultimately completely pointless. Alright, I think we can basically wrap this thing up, Your Honor. Wait, back up. The trial's not done yet, thank you. I know you still have a witness to bring to the stand. Nurse Winters, I believe. Okay, I know you're deliberately designing this case as a throwback to, internet shit from 2008, but using EMEA for a you have to present another witness statement is, maybe a bit much. That thought occurred to you a single time over the course of this. Maybe. I'm just saying. This trial isn't over until we've heard all witness accounts. Actually, Winters' testimony is highly unnecessary. The only thing she witnessed was Donald Graves entering the hospice. And that's like one of the only things we knew for sure already. How could there possibly be no points? Everything about this case is vague and uncertain. Why wouldn't we want supporting testimony? The specifics shouldn't matter. This is a court of law. You want Winters' testimony, huh? Alright, I'll give it to you. I let the defendant into the building. There. I believe I just saved the defense an hour of running around in circles. The defense politely requests the prosecution refrain from demeaning procedure. Your Honor, it is this court's duty to ensure no voice goes unheard. Ms. Faye, I understand your position. However, this is a trying time for Los Angeles and its people. It would be remiss of us to put further strain on our medical workers or our law enforcement. I feel it would be best to allow everyone to return to their lives and their livelihoods promptly. As such, I am inclined to agree with the prosecution. Sorry, that's just how it is. What? This guy... Is he seriously not going to let the court hear the only witness's testimony? That's not... How is... The hell with disaster relief? There's no way this is legal. The hell am I supposed to do? I have to stop this. If I don't get something to work with, my case is done for. Your Honor, I implore you, the court needs to hear Winter's testimony. Can you truly say you've passed proper judgment without having heard all the facts? Miss Fay, believe me when I say I empathize with your predicament. However, the prosecution has made a solid argument. What? No, he hasn't. And I simply don't see any reason to bring the nurse to the stand. But there is a reason, Your Honor. And I can't believe I have to point this out. Nurse Winters was the only one to see the defendant that night, correct? If she were mistaken... Mia, please. You think we're incompetent? We've put Winters through every test there is. The man she saw was undeniably Donald Graves. Not to mention that Graves had to have gotten into the hospice somehow. And Nurse Volkov verified that Winters was at reception between 11 and 12. She saw the defendant. That much is certain. And like it or not, that's just not information we need to hear. Damn it! No matter how much I struggle, I can't deny that the testimony is redundant. It's just that... That's not a real problem, right? I'm not prepared to deal with this. I thought this job was all about yelling and pointing and stuff. Unless... Alright, you aren't a real defense attorney in that case. So you aren't Mia Fey, so why is Diego Armando working with you? Not to be a downer here, but are we boned or what? Maybe. But maybe not. You got something? Sure. The hell do you mean, sure? Do we have a plan or don't we? I know what I need to do to get Winters on the stand, but... I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off. Miss Fey, I am sorry, but we need to wrap this up. Unless you have anything else to add, I'm afraid the trial will end here. Something is very wrong here. If I intend to get to the bottom of it, or anything else for that matter, there's only one way forward. I'm going to yell and point and stuff. Your Honor? What is it, Miss Fey? The prosecution does not object to a change of plea. That's not it. The defense demands the witness be brought to the stand. Jesus, you don't listen, do you? The testimony is useless. How many times did... Save your breath, I know the testimony is useless. But it's not useless because it's redundant. The witness's testimony is useless because the witness is lying. Possibly. Pardon me? Now we're talking. But, serious business now. Aside from the whole evidence thing, why in the world would you think the witness is lying? I said she might be lying. Nurse Winters was the only person to have seen the defendant before the murder. Basically, if she's lying, this entire case falls apart. Again, setting aside the whole evidence thing, tell us, Mia, why might the witness be lying? There's only one way I can play this, so I may as well go all the way. Simple. The only reason the witness would lie would be because she is the real killer. Now I'm pretty sure there were supposed to be a few more testimonies before this fight. Miss Fey, are you quite serious? You really like those unnecessarily long, unskippable pauses, don't you? Alright. Alright, you got me. I'm invested now. You want to have some fun with this thing, huh? Alright, Mia. I'm game. Let's have a battle of wits, you and I. How about it? Shit's getting good now. You think so, Pyrian? I'm sorry, I can't get over the fact that this whole setup is based on a lie. Like, I'm very secure in the belief that Winters is not the culprit. This twist isn't big enough. And also, we're in chapter 3 of 9 in the case. So, it's not really, what we could be going with. Fair warning, though. I play for keeps. Prosecutor? Let's just get this over with. You could at least pretend like you're excited. Could I, though? Don't lie, you were looking forward to this, weren't you? This guy. Well, whatever. Let's get down to business. So you say Winters might be lying because there's a chance she might be the killer. Well, unfortunately for you, it's quite impossible for her to be the culprit. Have you forgotten the very basis of our case against Graves? Here's a hint. It rhymes with Xanax Hero. And guess who's not a Xanax hero? Winters. Well, joke's on you, I know for a fact that you're lying this time. I'm suddenly very confused. So, Mia, how would Winters have been able to fake Shield's modulation in those phone calls? Be warned. I'm gonna want you to back up your arguments. Okay, we don't have that photograph in evidence. That's unfortunate. It says here that Shield is a serial kidnapper. That could mean there's more than one game. It says they're games plural. So we don't know the NX0 case is the one death game they were talking about in the other chapter setup. Still something to keep in mind. Don't y'all go forgetting. Naturally. You say the case against Graves was built around this problem, but your reasoning is faulty. How did Winters know about that modulation? I'll show you how. I know what I'm going for, but I don't know how to communicate it. Alright. How is this even a question? We don't know all the parties involved in NX0, you said it yourself. Isn't it entirely possible that Catherine Winters is Shield? Oh? Are you prepared to accuse a yet unheard witness for serial kidnapping in addition to murder? I hope so, because frankly that would be extremely entertaining. There's no need for that. If I recall correctly, prosecutor, didn't you also tell the court that this game of Shields was live-streamed to an anonymous audience? The claim that only those involved with NX0 can be the culprit is blatantly misleading. Because anyone could be involved with NX0. Oh, please, what possible motive would Shield's viewership have for committing a crime like this? Motive? Motive? You have to be kidding me. On you, Dr. Otome. If I was going to stream while using a voice modulator, do you think I'd use one that sounds like this? Tell me, Edgeworth, what's Donald Graves' motive for murder? Well, we just can't know for sure, right, Edgeworth? That's what you told me a minute ago. You haven't substantiated a single thing this entire trial, and you're asking me about motive? That is some lazy sound design, I'm sorry. Frankly, how dare you? I am 100% adrenaline right now. Well, what's that feel like? Miss Faye, you will calm yourself. I mean, carry on. Well, it's just someone here is more useless than I am. I'm right there with you. No, there's no need to be so touchy. That was just a warm-up after all. You didn't think that was all I had, did you? Oh my god, please get on with it. You remember what the detective said? Both nurses were seen throughout the night. They have alibis. Yeah, there's no way those are airtight. For starters, I doubt you can call the patients at the hospital reliable. And secondly, you just told us Winters was alone with the defendant for half an hour. That's more than enough time to commit this murder. Mia, you misunderstand me. Of course we can't track both staff members' every movement. No. Instead, we asked whether or not the nurses were wet. Okay, I didn't realize this was that kind of case. That's right. In order to commit this murder, the killer had to have been on the roof. And you can't have gone to the rooftop without getting soaked by Hurricane Seth. Okay, so they changed their clothes and washed their hair. What do you want from me? Both nurses have verified that the other was dry the entire night. And don't say they used a raincoat or had a change of clothes or something. Well, why not? A raincoat wouldn't have done much in a hurricane-force winds, and more clothes wouldn't dry their hair. So, Kathy has short hair. That's not... They both have short hair. That's not suspicious. How about an open window, then? She could have dumped Graves out the window and shot Bishop from there as well. You really think a place that houses radically depressed people has windows that open? No dice. Not one window in the building opens. Plus, blood splatter from Montclair indicates that the rooftop is definitely where he was struck. What happened to the rain washing away all the evidence? So there goes your window theory, or whatever. I'm getting really sick of this guy. But just like before, if I back down here, it's over. There's no other way. I have to destroy Winter's alibi right here and now. You aren't willing to give up yet, are you? Let's lay this question to rest, then. How could Winters be the killer and not get soaked by the rain? Well, this has worked for every other argument thus far. Let's give it a shot. Your logic is flawed, prosecutor. We've already established that Winters went out into the rain that night. She went out into the storm. We're just making things up now, huh? Sorry, Edgeworth, but no. You know this as well as I do. Very likely. Here's your proof. The evidence that shows why Winters went out into the rain is... the timeline that shows she's the one who found the body. Because she was the one who discovered Montclair on the roof. Look, you weren't there when I found him unconscious. If you had been, you'd understand. That genuinely hadn't occurred to you, had it? Detective McLean said the same thing on the stand. That's right. This alibi... You're joking, right? His body wasn't discovered until 1 in the morning. That's an hour after the meeting that was supposed to happen, and 1.5 since Graves showed up. If you're claiming that Winters didn't go onto the roof until then you're also claiming that no one was hurt until 1. I see no evidence to say that's false. In other words, Graves and Monty were just sitting around somewhere the whole time. I sincerely doubt it. Here's something you probably didn't think about. Nathaniel Montclair is, of course, a patient at Jameson Memorial. And as you might guess, patients aren't permitted to leave their rooms in the middle of the night to meet with shady people on the hospice roof during hurricanes. I mean, setting aside the plausibility, that seems like a full-on hospital policy to me. Weren't there only 2 nurses on duty? That's not suspicious. So he snuck out, without telling anyone where he was going. And when staff found out old Monty was missing, they searched the entire facility. If either Graves or Montclair were anywhere inside, they wouldn't have been seen.
Objection!
But they wouldn't have been inside. They were instructed to meet on the rooftop. And we already know that no one checked the roof until 1.
Objection!
You've done a good job holding out this long, but you're clearly improvising now. First of all, who the heck stays out in a hurricane for an hour? Is someone talking about a top-secret murder? And secondly, according to your theory, Winters accosted both of them simultaneously. By herself. Do you really think she's strong enough to fight 2 adult men at the same time? Honestly, not with that pipe. I agree. You agree. We agree. Yep. I figured this out. You have. Yeah. Winters cheated. And so will I. Oh, really? You know how Winters nearly killed 3 people, without going to the crime scene or overpowering the victims. Of course. It happened like I said. Graves and Montclair were on the roof until, say, 12:45. Which is when Winters showed up and nearly killed them both. She also shot Bishop at this point, which fits into his estimated time of death perfectly. And I just went over what... Let me finish. There's something that explains why they stayed out in the storm and how Winters overpowered them. Something that's very easily obtainable for someone in her profession. Oh, don't keep us waiting. Of course. Winters could have easily pulled this crime off by using... grape soda. No sedatives. She used sedatives to knock Graves and Montclair unconscious. Perhaps anesthesia? No, I'm pretty sure you just selected Graves. Here's how it could have gone. At 11:30, Graves arrived at the hospice. At some point in the next 30 minutes, Winters injects him with the sedative. She drags his body into the elevator and takes him to the top floor. From there, she brings him up to the rooftop and pushes him out the door. She repeats this process with Montclair, who would be far easier to sedate. Then she waits a while, joins in on the search for Montclair even. At around 12:45 maybe, she goes back to the roof. She tosses Graves off the top, brains Montclair with the pipe, and shoots Bishop with the bow. After that, all she has to do is run to Volkov and tell him she found Montclair. And that's how Winters could have committed this crime. You know, a wild fantasy might explain why Graves and Montclair stayed out in the storm for an hour, but there's still no reason. And right in the middle of the good part, too. Anyway, if my theory is right, he our actual victim. I've only been outside for 15-20 minutes at most.
Objection!
Nope. Sorry, still wrong. If Graves or Montclair were injected with anything, we would have found traces. And yet both of them underwent an examination. And neither one found anything of the sort. No needle marks, no residual effects, no traces of the drug. Your theory doesn't hold water. No, it's still possible. And I can prove it. All we need to do is take a closer look at what these examinations actually found. I sound confident all you want, but it's obvious you're grasping at straws here. But alright, I'm a nice guy. I'll give you a chance to explain yourself. Why did Graves' examination not turn up any traces of injection? Either because his arm was all banged up? The needle mark would have been obscured by the defendant's wounds. Nice try, but the examiner still should have found traces of the sedative in the defendant's blood. Maybe. There's something else then? Is pneumonia? Boy, I can't wait for you to try and explain that one. Oh god, I need to think carefully. Graves wasn't examined properly until days after the incident. By that time, the drug would have worked its way through the system. Alright, but it still doesn't explain the lack of needle marks. The needle marks would have been obscured by the defendant's cuts and scrapes, and the drug would have more than run its course by the 20th. Graves absolutely could have been injected with a sedative. Fine. But you're only halfway there, Mia. I hope you haven't forgotten about Montclair's exam. Unlike the defendant, Montclair sustained only one minor injury. And he was tested the same day. Can't worm your way around that. Easy. This report would never list evidence of the injection, because it was done by the person I'm accusing. Did you even read this report? Winters performed this exam. Wait, what? If Winters did sedate Montclair, all she had to do was omit it from her report. I getcha now. There. I think I've proved... Oh, just give it up already. The mark. The needle mark. If we examined Montclair right now, right this second, we should be able to find the mark from this alleged injection. Nah. Search all you want. There won't be any needle mark because he was on a drip. Montclair has a disorder called Dakota-Burkowski syndrome. In order to combat this disorder, he was put on a thiamine drip. When you consider that, it becomes quite obvious that the drug could have been injected straight into Montclair's IV bag. That's convenient. And now it's raining. See, I told them they should have replaced that roof after the courtroom bombing. Man, I can't believe we just freaking died. Oh? What have we here? Somewhere in between, are we? I won't do it all. Oh, wow. Game, you can't keep stopping on me like that. I keep getting afraid that you just froze. Be at peace. And dream. It won't be long now. Yeah, okay, don't give me any, like, specifics or anything. He was yelling something about taking shelter from the storm, so I let him inside. It was the defendant. He and I stayed in the lobby for a half hour or so. At 12, I left to take care of some things. Figured he'd be okay with this on his own for a while. This is a concise testimony indeed. I understood it perfectly. No, there's certainly nothing wrong with it at any rate. Well, Mia? Was it everything you were hoping for? There really doesn't seem to be anything new here. Let alone something contradictory. But there must be something, I just need to dig around for it. Alright. What do you got for me now? Around 11:30 there was a knock at the door. It does track with what we heard before, if nothing else.
Hold it!
What are you doing at reception? Surely you didn't expect anyone to show up. Dimitri and I had spent most of the evening preparing for the hurricane. We'd moved all the patients and equipment up from the ground floor already, so... And I was loading a cart up with as much stuff from the front desk as I could. Files, computers, those kinds of things. Who is Dimitri again? Dmitry Volkov, Your Honor. He was the other nurse on duty that night. Big Russian guy. Claims to have been a KGB assassin. What? That's Dimitri for you. He's just a big softy. All of our Cold War era patients think he's a hoot. A hoot is not how I would describe Dmitry Volkov. Yes, well, that's because you're a coward. Anyway, I think I better just come out and ask it. Nurse Winters, earlier I proved you had an opportunity to commit the murder. I don't necessarily believe you to be the culprit, but I still have to ask. Do you have any proof you were really in the lobby that night? So you don't necessarily believe I'm the killer, huh? But you'd still have me arrested over your client, right? No, actually. I thought so. And no, I don't have any proof I was actually at the front desk. I mean, you can check reception. Everything there has been moved. By me, of course. It's gotta count for something, right? I couldn't have done all that and killed someone. Edgeworth? Sorry, I don't know if it's possible. Winters was never considered a suspect, after all. And I'll get the detective to check it out after he verifies that there are no missing sedatives at the hospice. Did Nurse Volkov ever stop by reception, witness? Not while I was there. I saw him a few times throughout the night, but we didn't speak until after 12. May I remind you, Mia, that the witness has not done or said anything suspicious. That is purely a matter of personal... It is purely a matter of personal interpretation, my good man. Her alibi isn't airtight, sure, but that alone doesn't make her more of a suspect than Donald Graves. Who is hella suspicious, yo? Please stop talking like that. I get it, I need some evidence. And I won't find any here. Should focus on the key points of our testimony. If you use that as an excuse to slack off when writing your press conversations, I'm gonna lose a lot of respect for you. He was yelling something about taking shelter from the storm, so I let him inside. I believe my client told you he was driving in from out of town. Is that correct? That's right. I admit that at the time I thought that was a bit suspicious, but I didn't want to just leave him. Hold on, back up. What about his excuse was suspicious? He gave a valid reason. Look, you've been to the hospice, so you should know what the road to the facility is like. A 5-minute detour through the woods to the middle of nowhere? Exactly. There's no way he just happened upon us on his way into town. No one would turn down such a backwoods road in search of shelter. So you allowed someone who you thought was clearly suspicious into the hospice. It wasn't like that. I thought he was just lost and didn't want to admit it. Never would have let him inside if I thought he was dangerous or something. The witness's actions are clearly justified. The defendants, on the other hand... Oh, give me a break. Break of that Kit Kat bar? I'd appreciate one of those. I could, use a nice sugar hit. Anyway, it was the defendants. Yet I stayed in the lobby for a half hour or so. This is it. The crucial statement. There are a bunch of questions I could ask here. So let's do all of them in order. Could you set the scene for us, little witness? Yeah, sure, I guess. The doors to the building are mostly glass. I first saw the man through them. I was over behind the front desk when I heard knocking. I looked over and saw the defendant. The doors were locked? Yeah, of course they were. We don't allow visitors after 6. We also had a few sandbags in the way in case the storm was bad. Fat lot that did. Anyway, I unlocked the door and asked him what he was doing out here. He said he wanted to take refuge from the storm, so I let him in. Well, is that information important? Absolutely. Nurse Winters, would you please add that bit about the doors to your testimony? Sure, if you want. Obviously, you need to unlock the doors to let the defendant in. Did you remember to re-lock them afterwards? Of course I did. I even double-checked. And there's no way to open the doors from the outside. It would be a very poor lock if there were. The door doesn't move at all if it's locked. Well, I mean, you could lock and unlock the door from either side using the key, but... the key was still in its spot at the front desk when I retrieved it after midnight. And we've only got the one, before you ask. So basically, it was impossible for anyone to enter after the defendant. Thanks for establishing that for us, Mia. Anyway. Don't you anyway, me, I have more questions for you on this topic. Tell us about the defendant's appearance. I'd like to know about him, at the very least. Could you tell us more about the man you saw? Like what he was wearing, for example. What he was wearing? Let's see. He was dressed unremarkably for the most part. Lightweight blue jacket, blue jeans, sneakers. If it's a lightweight jacket, how did he smuggle a full-size sniper crossbow with a scope through it? That's what I'd like to know. The only thing that stood out were his black leather gloves. Oh, well, that's not suspicious at all. Did he have anything with him? Not that I saw. Do I want her to add that tidbit to her testimony? Absolutely. Witness, could you add that to your testimony? Alright.
Hold it!
Is that the statement I present on? Nothing else caught your attention? Really? No, nothing else comes to mind. And you're absolutely sure it was the defendant? Yeah, it was him, alright. The guy is missing like a quarter of his face at least. How can you be sure? Can you perhaps describe his features for the court? Oh, just give it up already, Mia. She saw the defendant. We have proven that she isn't mistaken. What do you expect to change by asking the same question over and over again? Miss Faye, I have to agree with the prosecution. If you continue to push the subject, I will be forced to penalize you for badgering the witness. I understand, Your Honor. Well, it isn't like Graves was never at the hospice at all. They recovered his body. It only makes sense that Graves was the man Winters let inside. And if it isn't true, then Winters is lying and would never tell us the truth anyway. Nah, it's definitely best if I back off for now. Alright, third question is about what happened during those 30 minutes. What did you and my client do in those 30 minutes? Nothing really. I had to finish getting all of the supplies at the front desk packed up, so I was doing that. And he just sat in the reception reading the crappy magazines we had of her lying around. Really? That's it? That's it. Honestly. Is that important information? Absolutely. Can you please add this information to your testimony, Nurse Winters? The power of crappy magazines is going to blow this case wide open, you mark my words. If you really think it's important...
Hold it!
You can't think of a single noticeable occurrence. I honestly can't. Did you ever talk with the man? We exchanged a line or two as I let him inside, but not after that. He commented on the weather, and I told him to sit in the lobby and not to go anywhere. Advice he took to heart, I see. Hardy har har, you're so funny. All your jokes are just insulting people. It's not even funny. It's only funny when I do it, because I only do it to people who deserve it. Like you. Yes, you, the viewers at home. You can continue, Winters. Alright, let's swap the most important looking one in for future reference. Alright, please add this information with the suspicious looking gloves. And very detailed, as Winter's the killer, I don't know for sure. There's something missing, I accidentally skipped it. I'll stall for as long as I can, but please hurry. Alright, what are you two planning? At 12 you left. That's all there is to it. You just happened to step away at the exact time the defendant needed to go to the roof. That's suspicious no matter how you look at it. The witness was simply performing her duties. It was nothing out of the ordinary. What was so important that you had to leave the man by himself, witness? A patient needed assistance, so I went to check on them. Could you be more specific? And how exactly is this relevant? She gave you an answer. If you want to dig around and try to find something incriminating, maybe don't be so obvious about it. I don't think there's anything immediately wrong with her testimony. I don't know if she's the killer. We sent Diego to go off to do something and then just kind of forgot about it. Anyway, if I'm right about this,
Objection!
which I am, If he was only wearing a leather jacket and wasn't carrying anything, then where did he keep that crossbow on him? Witness, you claimed that my client stood out due to his gloves, yes? That's what I said. And this was the only notable detail about the man. Yeah? Is there a problem? Not for me, no. Since according to you, the defendant didn't have the murder weapon with him.
Objection!
Okay, settle down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Just because the witness didn't see the bow doesn't mean he didn't have it. He probably hid inside a briefcase or something. But according to the witness's testimony, there was no briefcase. She probably just missed it. How could she have noticed the defendant's gloves, but not what he was carrying? You're really bad at your alleged job, Mr. Prosecutor, I'll have you know. Almost like you're not real or something. Almost like this entire trial is a sham. No matter how you look at it, the man this witness saw could not have been the murderer. Witness, was the man you saw indeed empty-handed? I'm positive he didn't have anything with him. See, without the weapon, there's no way Donald Graves could be the culprit. It's not as simple as that, I'm afraid. Not bringing the weapon with him doesn't clear the defendant's name. I don't see what you mean, prosecutor. Surely this crime was impossible without the crossbow. Oh, the defendant had the bow, alright. He must have planted it on the roof prior to the murder. Planted it? That's right. The defendant must have visited the hospice before and hid the bow on the roof. Clears up your contradiction quite nicely, wouldn't you say? Yeah, just leave the crossbow on the roof for a day and hope nobody finds it. I see no possible way that could go poorly. Actually, I disagree. Oh, please, don't give me that. The hospice might have a security system, but all the records have been washed away. He would have left a record on the visitor list, probably, but those are gone too. It's totally possible the defendant planted the crossbow on an earlier visit. But until the day of, we didn't know the hurricane was going to hit. So why would he have taken the risk? Well, pretty solid, huh? I have evidence. Well, golly, that's not a phrase I've heard often today. I don't care about security cameras or visitor records. Planting the crossbow is impossible because... it's because there's a lock on the door, isn't there? Where do we put that down? So not on the roof, where's that mark? Which of you mentioned the lock? Because I say it is, no. Come on, where are you, you hussy? You're in here somewhere. Which one of you is it? No. Look, I get what the issue here is. I see several things that could be issues here, rather. Is it because the other victim? No. I believe I have at this point gone through the entire court record. Because the rooftop was under construction. Yeah, okay, sure. Fine, whatever. That's how you communicate that. That makes sense. Not like the area with the clearly labeled construction area. I won't disagree that Graves, or anyone else for that matter, could have snuck into the hospice. But since the doors are locked at night and there's construction throughout the day, there's no opportunity to hide the crossbow. So what? The workers would have been busy. No, there is no way you're worming out of this one. Just admit it. The defendant had no way to bring the weapon to the crime scene. Meaning he can't be the killer. Donald Graves is still the most likely suspect. But the evidence doesn't support that claim. And neither does it support your claim that Winters is the murderer. But that's just it, Edgeworth. The evidence doesn't point to anything. Look at the court record. The evidence doesn't incriminate anybody, Graves or otherwise. Your entire case is nothing but conjecture. It relied on Graves being contextually suspicious. But now, Winters is the contextually suspicious one. Either Winters is lying and she's the culprit, or she's telling the truth and is still our most likely suspect. Your reasoning doesn't make any sense. When Her Honor asked Winters to double down on her testimony, she didn't hesitate. If she were the true culprit, then why didn't she attempt to explain the incongruity? As long as nothing is blatantly contradictory, it doesn't matter. Your words, Edgeworth. Man, you're a real piece of crap, Edgeworth. Cute. Do you have an explanation for this, or do you just have a vendetta against Winters? Do I have an explanation for this? Vendetta? Let me put this into perspective for you, prosecutor. If you had not deliberately withheld this testimony from the court, we wouldn't be having this problem. If you had actually taken your job seriously and listened to this testimony, maybe you would have seen the glaringly obvious contradiction in it. And don't think for a second that you weren't complicit in his negligence, Your Honor. Or were you not the one who tried to skirt procedure in the name of humanitarianism? Well, I can't help but notice that supposed goodwill is not being extended to my client. Legally, this should be where I call for a suspension. But in pursuit of justice for my client, and indeed the law, the defense demands further testimony. As the deciding factor of this entire case, it's imperative that this witness give us the full story. Further testimony is unnecessary. Oh, how silly of me. Why, of course. Let's just— Are you kidding? Look me in the eyes and tell me that contradiction from earlier doesn't warrant further testimony. Well, I can't see your eyes, so that's impossible. However, that contradiction doesn't warrant further testimony. And that's because the prosecution is prepared to explain that contradiction for you. What? It's possible that Graves was able to smuggle the murder weapon into the hospice. Oh, nonsense. The door was locked and Winters kept an eye on him the entire time he was there. You're not the only one who can pull off a turnabout, Mia. Watch and learn. Graves could have snuck the crossbow past Winters by... He could have disguised the crossbow as something else. That just went on its own, I didn't click that. You probably saw that, but I wanted to make sure it was all laid out in black and white. If the weapon looked innocuous enough, Winters would have looked right over it. That's how Graves smuggled the murder weapon into the hospice. But Winters specifically said Graves wasn't carrying anything with him. And considering the size of the crossbow, she definitely would have seen it. Oh. This exchange feels oddly backwards. But wait, let me try that again. Graves could have snuck the crossbow past Winters by hiding it on his... I can't click anything, they won't let me. That's it. Graves could have left the crossbow outside. I thought you were trying to explain how Graves snuck the bow into the hospice. Winters unlocked the door to let Graves in, but relocked it after. If the bow was outside, my client has no way of getting to it. Unless... Oh, it's in here. McLean could have picked it up using the fishing line, and then handed it off to him. The level of the... I think, and the level of the building is lower, so he could have just chucked it. That's always a possibility. It would require making the victim an accomplice, but that's not the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a case. It's not the weirdest thing I've seen in this case. Oh wow, I can't believe the trial is still going. I had an MIR done and ate dinner at Texas Roadhouse. We lost like half an hour to repeated crashes, but be sure to catch on the VOD, because a whole lot of shit happened while you were out, dearest. It was very weird. But Winters had to use the front door key to do so. And where was this key kept? At reception. That's also an option, I guess. If you want to be boring about it. Winters, would the defendant have seen you retrieve and or return the key to the front desk? Yes, I suppose he would have. The doors are made of glass after all. In other words, Graves knew where to find the key. Meaning that he could have opened the front doors to retrieve the weapon he had hidden outside. And maybe he could have if Nurse Winters hadn't been watching him the whole time. But was she? Remember, Winters left the defendant alone at 12 to go assist a patient. He, of course, used this opportunity to move to the rooftop. However, isn't it possible that he first took a minute to retrieve the crossbow? Why is his argument making sense? Afterwards, Graves could have simply relocked the door and put the key back where he found it. Ta-da! Contradiction countered. In order for this plan to work, Graves had to have known the location of the key ahead of time. It's not like he knew Winters would leave him unsupervised. He could have easily learned about the key by being in or near the hospice at closing time. And true, he didn't know Winters would leave, but considering his intentions that evening, maybe we're lucky there wasn't a fourth casualty. You say with a smile on your face. Even if it technically works, this theory is so flimsy. I don't think I can disprove this. I should focus on making my own arguments. Either way, we still need further testimony from Winters. The testimony she has provided is more than sufficient. Her being with the defendant in reception is her only relevance to the murder. Not redeemed to hydrate, thank you. And a stretch. Further testimony would be pedantic and irrelevant to the task at hand. Who are you, Edgeworth? Why are you so determined to keep me from getting testimony out of this? Graves and Winters are equally suspect at best. Thank you, Dr. Miz, for getting too stiff and dehydrated. I don't really think there's anything you could do to stop that from happening, but thank you. More testimony could prove or disprove my theory from earlier. But if Winters is the culprit, that brings us back to my earlier problem of... Okay, wait, hold on a minute. Your Honor... sorry, but I am so confused right now. Yes? About what, witness? Well, I mean... a lot of things, I guess. For example, I've already given my testimony to the police, haven't I? Aren't I just here to tell it again in person? I don't really understand why that's such a big deal. Well, normally it wouldn't be. However, the defense has made it painfully clear that they intend for you to take the fall for this murder. As such, I've just been looking out for your best interest, witness.
Objection!
That's so incorrect, I don't even know where to begin. Winters, the only reason you're under suspicion at all right now is because the prosecution refused to allow this court to do its job and hear your testimony in the first place. And the situation continues to escalate for this same reason. Yeah, there's no way that's the whole story here. Even if the prosecution is withholding testimony or whatever, do you expect me to believe your only option was to frame the most convenient bystander? But part of that isn't just gross incompetence. Hey, in my defense, it was gross incompetence on the part of the prosecution and the judge. It legitimately was the only option I was given, due to the limitations of game design. That one hurt. The worst part is that I actually believe you, though. You believe her. Well, I certainly don't buy anything that comes out of your mouth. Looking out for my best interest, what a joke. All you've done is make things worse. Yeah, just got you there. Please stop making it look like I have something to hide. I don't. I have nothing to do with this. Just let the 20-something in the James Bond outfit do her job. Seriously, I have things to do. I don't know what your deal is. The more you antagonize her, the more she antagonizes me. So quit it. The court, thanks you for your... Indeed. Yes, Back to proceedings, then. Your Honor, I don't know if it's my place to make requests, but... please just let me testify so I can go home. I really don't want to side with the girl who's trying to frame me for murder, but this is getting silly. Yes, well... are there any objections to this course of action? Prosecutor? No objections here. Wait, did I actually get what I wanted? That's so strange. Even tiny victories have been so hard to get in this courtroom. I'm kinda shocked, actually. I suppose we best get on with it. Witness, recount the events of that evening in their entirety, if you would please. You know, to be completely honest, I was prepared to go even longer than this. But seeing as how we've lost, like, probably close to an hour of stream time to crashes by this point, I think I'm not gonna risk it. We'll be ending off here for tonight. This case has escalated wildly in specific directions I did not expect. I might have a few minor quibbles with the writing style, but I am very excited to see where we go from here. Thank you all for coming in today. And tonight, who is available for us to raid? Don't you all leave yet, we do have stuff to do after this. Alright, come on, load in your screenshots, I got places to be. Alright, who's here? Who's here? Who's there? Who's anywhere? That's an option. That's also an option. That's a less appealing option, but it is technically an option. Is there anybody out there I could exchange with? Alright, now, yeah. That's fine. I think we're going to be raiding tonight. Xander Turing, a fellow science tuber, though he's not in forensics, which does mean he is ever so slightly less impressive. And he's currently playing Hades. You know, love Hades, don't we, folks? It's also a game that's damn near impossible to spoil, which is the big deciding. I'm forgetting how to talk. We've been streaming for a very long time. I think I'll stop now. Thank you for coming in. Tomorrow we'll be fighting the bonus boss of Ribbit, that Deltarune fan mod. I expect it will kick my ass quite thoroughly. So, see y'all then. I hope you all enjoy, and I will see you all in the future. Goodbye.